Namaste and good morning to every one of you. This setup is a bit different from what Preeti and I are used to when we are working with teachers. Today, we are going to look at education itself from a little bit of distance by stepping back. I know that all of us have been into education day in and day out, but today, let's all step back together so that we can go deep within ourselves and probably come up with a few gems. And these are the gems that we will be taking home back at the end of the day. So before we enter into the details of integral education, we need to know a few things. A background is very, very essential, and it all started with Sri Aurobindo. And it is important to know the person. So whenever I want to learn anything, like any new knowledge, the first question I ask is, who is the person who discovered it? And then the first book I get is on the life of the person, because it is important for me to know how this person has lived and whether whatever he has said helped himself or not. Then only I will take up what he has come out as his own knowledge. It's important to know the founders of integral education, and I'm going to give you a very basic, necessary minimum of what we have to know about Sri Aurobindo. How many of you have already know something of the life of Sri Aurobindo? Just put up your hand so that I know. So for some of you, still it could be something new. So Sri Aurobindo was born in 1872 in Bengal at that time. His father was so much taken up by the English way of education and their way of life. For him, ये तो बड़े साहब हैं. He wanted his children to have a completely English education. So what did he do? When Sri Aurobindo became 7 years of old, he sent him and his brother to England for a completely anglicized education. He said, this is the best education that we can have is when you go to England itself. And Sri Aurobindo had his entire education there in two of the most beautiful school as well as the university. And there it so happened that he was the most brilliant student that the university itself has encountered. Imagine an Indian student, an Indian person coming from here and shining there. One of the essays written by him, when his professor saw that essay, and this is what he said. He said, I have never seen an essay of this quality, linguistically as well as in content, in my entire career. And that was the essay of Sri Aurobindo. And not only that, he took up the study of the West. He mastered their languages. He mastered English, and then he mastered French. And he said, I wanted to know more of their language. He took up Greek and Latin, and he mastered those languages too, so much so that he could write poetry in all these 4 languages. Imagine the genius that he must have been. But whenever you finish your education in England, what did the Britishers in India do? They call those people, because these are the people who are educated in their system, and make them work for them in India. So when Sri Aurobindo was about to complete his last final exam, after which he will be called by the Britishers to work under them in India, he bunked one of the exams, which was a horse riding test, without which they will not give the certificate. And once he bunked it, and then that was the time, there was a reason behind it, because while his father, who was taken up by the English people and their culture, he gradually realized the way they ruled India. You remember that was the time when India was going through a very, very painful time. And all that happened in India, his father used to make newspaper cuttings and used to send him to his children. He had realized that he has not done the best that he could have done for his son. And when Sri Aurobindo started going through, he said, I'm not going to work for the British, but I want to fight for the freedom of my country. And it was with that resolution that Sri Aurobindo came back to India. And when he came back to India, he went straight to Gujarat. And there he chose to work under a Maharaja. And when he came back, he already had mastered the history of the West. You can call it as the best of the West that West has to give him. But he did not know much about his own motherland, India. Because right from a young age, he has spent his life, his entire childhood, and the youthhood there in England. So after coming back to India, what did he do? The first thing is, I wanted to know about my motherland, and he started diving deep into knowing India and its culture. What did he do? He took up a deep study of the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all the scriptures. He went so deep into it, and after that he felt, no, this is not enough. I want to experience what India stands for. He sought out a yogi who is from Maharashtra. His name was Vishnu Bhaskar Lele. And with his help, he went and told him that I want to experience what the scriptures are talking about. Without experience, how will I know what India stands for? And with the help of that yogi, he entered into the depth, a very deep spiritual experience. And he was already at that point could understand the depth of Indian culture. And when he comes out of it, he spent 13 years into just acquainting himself with the experience of this. And once that is over, in 1906, something very, very painful happened to India. Anybody knows what happened in 1906, 1905, 6? The partition of Bengal. Yes, very painful. It's almost like you have a body and somebody is taking to pieces. One part of it is cut off suddenly. That was the amount of the experience people had when the Bengal partition happened. That is the time when Sri Aurobindo stepped out into the front, and then he looked at the whole of India, and he could see two Indias. What are the two Indias? The one India that is British. Why do I say India that is British? Because all that it could see was an India which has lost a lot of things due to the British invasion. One of the things that you may not know, but if you look up Wikipedia, I'm going to ask you also that in the last 2000 years, how many times do you think India would have been invaded by a foreign country? Make a guess. Just make a wild guess. Just imagine if one country invades the other country, it is finished. They would loot everything that is there in the country and take it back to their home. In the last 2000 years, Wikipedia says India has been invaded by more than 200 times. And you want to ask, why? भाई सब लोग यहाँ आना चाहते हैं? Why? Because India was one of the richest, wealthiest country. What they didn't know is it was also a land of most knowledge, which made them wealthiest. But all the people who came in those 200 invasion, they did not come for Gyan. They wanted money because here is a country which is so prosperous. Let me come and then grab as much as I can so that I can take it back home. And in this process, when the Britishers came, what was the idea behind their coming? They wanted to earn money. And therefore, when they looked at all that was happening, they wanted to make Indians work for them and also earn money. Not only the material wealth that is available. What did they do? Most brilliant thing. Of all the people who invaded India, they were the ones with the master plan. They looked at the education which made India great, and said, can we change it a little, twist it a little, so that after the education, all Indians should work under us, should be fit for working under us. Everybody knows the story of how our current education system came about. It is important to know that it was by and large brought by the Britishers with the idea of making us work under somebody, and the situation has not yet changed. We all go finish our education so that we can work under some corporate houses. No? Why? This is another twist which happened. When India's educational system changed, all the cultural values taught through the education also was not made available to children of India. Ramayana was not there. Mahabharata was not there. The value system that held India together and made it as one of the great was not there anymore. And what happened to the children who came out? Instead, they were given the value that education will make you fit to work for somebody, earn money. And that was it. And we had already gone through a lot of losses. One of the main thing is the loss of the cultural values. In the education system, there was no subject how to be truthful. Do you think it is important to be truthful in life? So why don't we have a subject that why it is important to be truthful? Why it is important to be honest? Why it is important to be sincere? Is it important to know how to love another human being? Yes or no? So why don't we have a subject called how to love? There is definitely science, chemistry, physics, biology, all that is there. But is it not important to have a subject on how to love? Now, these were the values which were part of the original Indian system of education, which were removed systematically, and all that we ended up was a group of people devoid of values, money given as the carrot stick, and then coming out fit enough, not as characters who can stand, but people who can work under somebody. This was the India that is British. Pretty much, you could relate with this. Now, Sri Aurobindo looks at the other side, and then he looks at another version of India. I told you there are two Indias. And what he was looking at was India that is Bharat. We need to make this important distinction. One is the India that is British. Even now, by and large, we are following their educational system. We are following Western model of politics. We are, by and large, their value system. Everything is for money, etc. But here is India that is Bharat. Out of his own experience and out of his own deeper study of Indian scriptures, he could understand that there is a big difference between India that is British and India that is Bharat. So what is India that is Bharat? What does it mean to be an Indian? What does India stand for? Now these are the things that if I have to ask you, what can we say? What would you say? What does it mean to be an Indian? Can anybody say? I'm hearing a few glimpses. And what India has to stand for, is it part of our education system? Now suddenly we are stepping back. What matters to India most? How can it not be part of an educational system which is supposed to build future India? It's an important question. But I grew up without knowing anything about India that is Bharat. I knew pretty much a lot of things about India that is British because I have lived through that education system and I've been into the corporate system too. It's important for us to look into what is India that is Bharat. What defines our country? What does it mean if you and I have to say, I'm an India? We don't become Indians only because we are born here. Passport hai to? Can we claim that we are Indians? Technically, yes. But deep in our heart, are we happy about it? Surely there must be something more to be an Indian, to feel an Indian, isn't it? Now, this is where I'm going to share with you what Sri Aurobindo has experienced and explained that this is what India stands for. So Sri Aurobindo says there are three things that make India what it is, the nation it is, the India that is Bharat. There are how many things? Three things. Thank God it's not too many things. Three things that make India that is Bharat, and three things that will make us into Bharatiya, the Indians that we want to be. And the first thing he says is most wonderful. He says that in our country, there has been a special group of people who were called rishis, the people who are hardcore researchers. And in this country, they have been asking the question, they have been trying to figure out everything, and they ask the question that is it all that we have, or is there something more to life? And they got their answers, and that answer is what I will be sharing with you. So one of the rishis said that behind all that we see, there is a power that has created all, and that power is taking care of everything secretly and leading us towards something beautiful. What was the first discovery that all of us will have to? There is a power behind everything. It is that power, Shakti, that has created everything, and that is right now, you and I are not able to experience it because it is their secret behind everything that we see. Our family life, our career, behind our nation and the whole world, there is this power that is guiding it secretly. And that power is the truth that all of us will have to realize. And how did they put it? How did they name it? Whenever we discover something, we want to name it, no? Like when puppy comes to the house, you want to name it, right? When baby is born, you have to name it. Why? Because you have to call that by some name. What was the name given by the rishis to this creative power? And it's a very beautiful name. They did not want to give any name because they knew that giving a name could end up in problem. Because people who are, let's say, from Tamil Nadu, so I'm from Tamil Nadu, if I have to name it, in what language will I name it? Tamil. And if I have to come here, and then we'll have to come across somebody who has also experienced the truth, what will that person have named that truth in what language? Marathi. And if we are coming out with two different names, we might ending up understanding that it is totally different. So they said that we are not going to name anything, but only to call it as that. Simply, how simple can a name be? That. Not this, not you, not me, not anything that you see, but that. That power. They said, Tat, Sat. That power is the truth. And interestingly, they also knew that people are going to give various names to it because this is the truth which could be experienced by anybody who turns towards that with a discipline. And they also knew that even though it is a single truth, people call it by several names. There is only one truth which is behind everything, that creative power, but people call it differently. You know how it is put in Sanskrit? Anybody knows? Ekam Sat. The truth that is there, it cannot be that for me it's one truth and the people in Maharashtra have a different truth and then you go to another state, they have a different truth. Nothing like that. The truth is one and it has to be one, isn't it? But Viprah, Bahudha Vadanti, people who have gotten in touch with it, they are from different backgrounds, so each one have given their names to it. But truth is not many, truth is one. This is the first discovery which defines our Indianness, our Indian culture. It is important to know when we are looking to unite our nation, India, we are going to face a lot of problem because there are people who are going to say that we will have to unite this country under one religion, Hindu, whatever it may be. But what about the people who follow other religions? What about the people who follow other belief systems? There may be somebody who may be believing in communism. It's already happening in a couple of states already. Or capitalism. What about them? They all want to stand, make our country stand for whatever they believe in. And as long as we want our country to stand for a system of belief, we will never ever be united. But if we want to make our country stand on an experience which is the same for everybody, then we have the possibility of uniting the country so that none of us will end up quarreling. This country stands for a power, realizing that power as the truth behind everything. But that is not the full part of the story. Because that power may be there, मुझे क्या लेना देना है? If you can tell me how to get in touch with that power, I can make use of it in my life. Maybe my life will become different, better for it. And the question that came after that is, how do I get in touch with that power so that I can bring about a lot of change in me and in my family also? They also need a lot of changes, no? And that was the second question. And the rishis, they are the scientists, no? Scientists, which are unique brand of Indians. They started working on discovering methods, practices, techniques through which every one of us can get in touch with that power. And do you know that all this, when they brought it together, they said, these techniques and practices can be given a name. So the entire group of techniques and practices that will help us to get in touch with that power behind. Do you know the name that they gave it to this science through which you can get in touch with the power behind? Yoga. The very word yoga means you are getting in touch with something which is greater than you so that you can change your life for the better. And there were, in how many yogas are there? 1, 2, 3, 4? No, there are innumerable yogas because all of us don't have the same background. Each one of us, starting point is different, and therefore our yoga can also be different. But though the path is different, the destination is the same. Do you know where we come to know of it? From the Bhagavad Gita. Like all the rivers which are flowing through different terrains in different ways, they all go and join where? Finally, the same ocean. And that beautiful book, Gita, was also removed from our educational system, because of which we think that because your way is different from me, I am different from you, and my way is the best one, and your way is second best. And then the fight starts, quarrels start, without realizing that the paths have to be different, but the goal cannot be different. There are so many yogas that are there, and each one of us will have to select their own path. There's no one person who says that, no, this is all everybody has to do. This is the second discovery. So what was the first discovery? The discovery of a power which is there secretly even now behind everything. And the second one is there are several paths that can help us to put us in touch with that power so that we can bring about a change in our life. And there are too many of this. They are called yogas. 2. Everybody remembers these 2? Only one more, so it is easier to remember. Now comes the real question which you and I will have to ask, and it is important for you and I. If you say that there are so many paths are there, which is my path? Question comes, no? So that you don't end up choosing somebody else's path, and then after 50 years, you come to realize that, oh, I should have chosen this, something else. And the third one is the most important question, is how do I know what is the best path for me? And this is the third discovery, which if I have to share with you, I will have to take you back through a story to Mahabharata, where everybody knows the story of Mahabharata, isn't it? We have seen the full serial in the Mahabharata serial. Everybody knows that particular episode where Draupadi's Cheer Haran hua tha. Which episode is that? Episode 92 something? I don't know. But everybody remembers Draupadi's Cheer Haran. What happened? Well, there were 5 people who are the greatest warriors. Pandavas unko bolte hain. They had a wife also, Draupadi. They had a panga with their bhais, Duryodhan, and he has 100 brothers. They were all 100 brothers. They had a fight. And when they grew up, the fight became so intense that it so happens that Yudhishthir was appointed as the next king, and Duryodhan didn't like it. So what did he do? What did Duryodhan do? He looked at the Pandavas, the eldest, no, बड़े भाई युधिष्ठिर होते हैं ना, he is a gem of a person. वो उनको बोलते हैं धर्मराज, है ना, धर्म के राजा हैं. But he has one flaw in his character. Otherwise, he is a very good person. You can't find any fault. One fault, which also tells us that, you better be careful about your behavior. Even one flaw can pull you down. What was that flaw? Gambling. It was, यहाँ क्या बोलते हैं उसको? द्यूत क्रीड़ा, है ना? द्यूत क्रीड़ा. He used to bet things and then gamble, and then there was a josh, and then that was the only weakness in his character. Everything was tik-tak. Duryodhan knew this. He called him for a game of dice. Why? So that he can beat him in the game and then get the kingdom back and also all the money that he has. How will he do it? He had his advisor, political advisor. कौन थे? Shakuni Mama. He knew how to make a dice. Dice वो डालते हैं ना उसको dice. How to make the dice loaded so that it can listen to the person who throws it. So they all get together. The game of dice starts. Duryodhan starts throwing the dice, and one by one, Yudhishthir starts losing it. He loses his wealth. He loses his kingdom. And then finally, he has nothing more to lose. Then what does Duryodhan say? He says, अरे आपके पास और कुछ है, 4 भाई है ना, और आप खुद भी हो, put them as part of the gambling, no, bet them. So Yudhishthir was so sad that he has lost everything. He उनको भी डाल दिया, अपने भाई लोग है ना, क्योंकि अच्छे भाई लोग थे, उनको मानते हैं. So whatever, he being the eldest, they were all following him. So he put them in the bet and he lost them also. Now Yudhishthir says, game khatam, I have nothing else to do. And immediately, what did the other party said? Duryodhan said, बैठो बैठो बैठो, आपके पास एक और चीज है. क्या चीज है? Draupadi. Draupadi is not an object. But still, when Yudhishthir is in the josh, when he is in the middle of having lost everything, he put it in such a way that he thought that Draupadi is also one of the bet items, and then dal diya. And then the dice was rolled, the loaded dice. What happened? He lost that. And then stood Duryodhan. What did he say? Ab to time for my revenge has come. There is a backstory also. Once upon a time, Draupadi laughed at him and he was waiting to take revenge. In the process, he also wanted the kingdom. He also wanted the money of all that the Pandavas possess. He got up and then he immediately called उसके एक भाई थे. कौन है? दुशासन. He said, जाओ द्रौपदी को खींच के लाओ. Not with all the respect. He said, drag her because she belongs to me. She is my property. And all this, Yudhishthir has lost her. And then Draupadi comes. How? She was dragged into the sabha. And when she enters, she doesn't have any idea what has happened. She looks at all the big people who are there, the elders, the seniors of the family. Kon the? Dhritarashtra. There are Vidur the and Bhishma Pitamaha the. The moment they all looked at her, they were all going ting ting, like they are lowering their head, not wanting to look at her eyes. And when she's brought in front of everybody, the final command from Duryodhan comes. What did he say? Cheer Haran, disrobe her, because I wanted to shame her so that I can have my revenge. And the moment Dushasan started putting his hand on the sari, and then when he started pulling it, what happened? Draupadi, last minute, she just looked at all the 5 of her husbands. See, how many people can hope to have 5 husbands? First of all, right? You have only one maximum, another one, but by the way. And these 5 are the greatest warriors that the world has seen. And they are shaming the one who is the wife of all of these. She looks at all the 5, one after the other, and they all go like this. They don't want to look at her face. And then that was the time she realizes one big truth. When the greatest difficulty comes, these husbands now, they are not going to help. Even if you have 5 of them. And then suddenly she remembers, there is one of mine whom I feel is the person who can help me in this situation. And what does she do? She closes her eyes and then she looks up and then she gives a shout. What was that? Hey Dwarakadish, hey Krishna, aao, bachao. And then what happened? Like magic, Dushasan was pulling the sari and the sari kept coming and coming. It was said that Dushasan had the strength of 10 elephants in his shoulders. Just imagine a person with 10 elephants. With all the might he is pulling and the sari kept coming, and finally Dushasan falls to the ground completely exhausted. And he couldn't disrobe Draupadi completely. But this is not the story I wanted to tell you. This everybody knows. What you may not know is the second part of the story, sequel 2. You have noted, many of you may not know it. And the sequel 2 happens after the Mahabharata Yuddha is over. Pandavas have defeated Kauravas. So Pandavas knew that they won only because Krishna was on their side. So they wanted to call Krishna for a dinner party. Okay, you want to have that. So Krishna was called for a dinner. Draupadi did elaborate arrangements to feed Krishna only because Krishna was there, they won. And the dinner was served. Krishna ate everything nicely. And then he got up to wash his hands. So he went to a tap. And as he was going, Draupadi went after him. What was she saying? Krishna, ek minute, ruko. Just, I wanted to ask you something. So Krishna said, Draupadi, you can ask me anything. You are my sister, ask me. And she said, Krishna, you remember that Cheerharan episode? Ha. What do you want to ask about it? When Dushasan was trying to shame me? Yes, I remember it. When he started pulling the sari, I called you. And then the sari started coming. But between the two, there was a half a second gap. I called you. For half a second, nothing happened. मैं सोचा half a second के लिए, क्षण के लिए गया. And then the sari kept coming. So I wanted to ask you that why that half a second delay? It should have happened immediately, no? I called you and you should have answered me immediately. The sari should have started flowing. And Krishna looked at her. He gave her a sweet smile and then said, Draupadi, तुमने मुझे बुलाया है ना? So how did you call me? So Draupadi said, हाँ, मैं बुलाया है ना? Hey Dwarakanath, आओ बचाओ. He said, Draupadi, I have to come running all the way from Dwaraka. And even though I am a Superman, half a second delay ho gaya. And that is it. But if you had known that I am also in your heart, and if you had called me that, hey Antaryami, आओ बचाओ, even that half a second delay would not have happened. And this is the country which looks at a culture which is saying that there's no point too much in fighting about God and where he is. Because in this case, if Draupadi has said, Shivji, aavo bachavo, where will Shivaji would have come? From Kailash. Ek second ho gaya hoga. If she is Christian, she would have called Father in the heaven, so 2 seconds ho gaya hoga. Hai na? But here is a country which says that that power is also within every one of us. We don't call that power enough to take care of our father-in-law, mother-in-law, getting a good job, not having problems in the classroom, giving us all good, nice children. All that, there is a power that is there waiting to be called so that it can be part of our life. And that power can show us what we are meant to be. That power, that antaryami, can show us how we can be the best version of ourselves. To get in touch with that is the essence of Indian culture. And that power can, through the right way, the path meant for me, put me in touch with that greater power which is managing everything. And this is the third discovery that Sri Aurobindo shared. And this is India, that is Bharat. When we have such a culture as part of our everyday life, then I can say that yes, I am an Indian. And the big question comes, how do we make it happen? First, within myself, and then to the young generation that is coming up, because they will be the future India. And that was the question which Sri Aurobindo was grappling. From 1906 to 1910, as he was going through the deepest experience, and after having experienced, he came out with a program for the complete revival of the whole of India, which he called nationalism. And what were the key components of the nationalism? To bring back these three discoveries and make it part of our life. And then he said that if we have to inculcate it into the young generation, we need an education where this is exposed to them right from the beginning. And he says all our young minds will have to be inculcated this way of looking at things, and they need to be inspired. They should feel proud that they belong to a culture through which it can not only make every one of us the best we can be, but it can put our nation, it can make our nation to be the best that it can be, a united, harmonious, extremely creative Bharat, the India that is Bharat. And this national system of education was what Sri Aurobindo started articulating it, and that too was the beginning of what later we called as integral education. But to look at this national education, and this is what Sri Aurobindo has himself said. All of us, we have a lot of work to do if we have to ensure that this becomes part of our educational system. He says the first one, our first object shall be to declare this ideal. We don't want to settle for anything less than this. The three discoveries that I have just shared, which Sri Aurobindo has shared with us, this we have to set that this is the ideal that we want to strive for. Insist on the spiritual change as the first necessity and group together all who accept it and are ready to strive sincerely fulfill it. I'm looking at already 200, 300 people who are ready to come together so that we can put it into practice. But he says that is the first step. Second one is we experience this and then we take it to the classroom and we take it to every possible field, be it science, technology, art, music, dance, drama, everywhere we bring that power of creativity into that life. This is the second task all of us will have to do. And then he says, as a result, the third one, what will result is the object of this action will be a new creation and a spiritual education and culture. When we say spirituality, it is that spirituality which completes our life, which makes our life the best possible life that can ever be. Not a life, not a approach that divides life, but an approach that completes life. And this is what Sri Aurobindo and the mother are here to offer. And then they say that it was such an education that Sri Aurobindo wanted to have. And towards 1910, when the freedom struggle reached its peak, he gets a command from within that you need to develop this further so that when India gets free, he knew that India will be free because this power that is behind India is going to ensure that. But we need to be ready to make use of that freedom. Imagine an India which has lost its education, its culture, its values. What will it do with its freedom? We will go from further below in that scale, isn't it? So he wanted to prepare that, and that is why he gets a command from within, from that same power which is organizing everything, that go to Pondicherry. Because there is something beautiful that is going to happen. And that was the time before he leaves his freedom struggle, before he comes to Pondicherry, he takes one look at the entire education system and then he gives it three principles based on which the education system must reform itself. So the Didi already has mentioned the three principles of education. This was the birth of the three principles of education, and I'm not going to tell you what those principles of action, the principles of a true education are, but all of you have been given a book, no? There is a book called On Education. If you can open it, I can tell you where it is, so that as educationists, all of us will have to take a look at it. Know that these are the principles that is going to define a new way of education. So if you go to page 23, so the book that is given to you, the book contains words from Sri Aurobindo, the first half of the book. The second half are the words from Mother. Now it is important to know one thing, because here is a book where every sentence, every word is an expression of the experiences which the person who wrote it had. From the depth of that experience, these words have come. And this is one book, by the way, I'm trying to finish reading it for the last 25 years. I still feel that I have scratched barely the surface. Every time I read, I can see the hidden layers of this book. And I'm going to give you just a glimpse of that. So on page 23, you have a paragraph, and the last 6 to 7 lines of that paragraph. Can anybody confirm me? Those who don't have the book, don't worry, I'm going to read it. And the sentence starts with, everyone has in him something divine. Smita, can you confirm? Has everybody located it? If you have a pen and pencil, just underline everyone, because that is what you will have to go back and read and reread to get a glimpse of what Sri Aurobindo means by this education. And I'm going to read it for those who don't have the book and for those who have the book too. And this is what Sri Aurobindo says. This, I'm going to read, is part of the second principle. So I told you there are three principles that guide integral education, and this is part of the second principle. And he says, everyone has in him something divine. That power, that creative power. Everyone has in him something divine, something his own. ये मेरा है. क्यों? कैसे? Because it's there inside me. It's not there anywhere on the outside, which, I will have to cross the 7 oceans and then climb mountains to get it. It is there, right there within me. Something his own. What is that? A chance of strength and perfection, Shakti and Purnata. Every one of us is that a chance of strength and perfection in however small a fear which God offers him to take or refuse. All of us have this field given. For us here, this is the educational field. But somebody who says that, no, I'm not into education of changing everybody, I'm just a householder. But then the house is your area. Even there, you can bring about a chance of strength and perfection. And that has already been given to you. The possibility and the capacity is already given to you. The chief God offers him to take or refuse. The task is to find it. Where should we find it? Inside us. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't even have to take one step ahead of us, but we just have to look within for that. The task is to find it, develop it, use it. And then he says, for all of us, so important, the chief aim of education should be to help the growing soul to draw out that in itself which is best. Where is our best? Not in getting the right AI tool, not in getting the best computer or a bungalow or even a wife or a husband. The best is right within every one of us. To draw that out, make it come out, should be the aim of education, isn't it? Education is that which helps every child to bring out the best within himself or herself. And make it perfect for a noble use. And then look at our country, a whole country where children are carrying this attitude, this possibility. You are looking at a country which is going to be the leader of the whole world in this approach, in this education. But in 1910, Sri Aurobindo was taking the first step. He needed to do much more. And we are going to take a further look into what happened when Sri Aurobindo came to Pondicherry, and still we are going to look at how this education, which Sri Aurobindo called national education, became an integral education. You can call it as Purna Vidya, Purna Siksha. It's a completer way of education. So for that, I'm going to request Preeti to come. We have been working together for several years now, trying to share some of the things that we have done with ourselves. And we definitely started with those 3 discoveries, and that is how. But we need to know a little more, and that is the journey that we are going to continue. Thank you.